All right, let's dive into one of history's most incredible and personal rivalries, the long, bitter feud between two absolutely iconic queens, Elizabeth I and Mary, Queen of Scots.
I mean, this story has it all. Power, religion, betrayal, you name it. But the big question we're going to tackle is this. How on earth did two royal cousins, both with a claim to the English throne, get locked into a deadly struggle that could only end one way?
Yeah, this was way more than just a political tiff. We're talking about a deeply personal 30-year chess match. It was a battle of wits, of faith, and ultimately of survival. And it all came to a head with a signed death warrant and the executioner's block.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we have to start with the fundamental conflict. It all boils down to a very simple but very dangerous problem. Two queens and only one throne.
And what's so wild is how these two were like perfect opposites. You've got Elizabeth, a Protestant, the daughter of the controversial Anne Boleyn, and she was known for being incredibly shrewd and careful, a true political survivor. And then you have Mary, a passionate Catholic, known for being impulsive, reckless even, often letting her heart rule her head.
So how exactly were they related? Well, it's actually way less complicated than you'd think. Both of them were granddaughters of King Henry VII. Elizabeth's dad was his son, the famous Henry VIII, and Mary's grandmother was his daughter, Margaret Tudor. This put both of them directly in the line of succession.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of the problem: legitimacy. See, for Catholics everywhere, Henry VIII's break from the church to marry Anne Boleyn made that marriage totally illegitimate. And if the marriage was illegitimate, so was the child, Elizabeth. In their eyes, that made Mary, a devout Catholic, the one true heir to the English throne. This was the threat that hung over Elizabeth's head for her entire reign.
Now, things really kicked into high gear when Mary's, let's just say, chaotic life in Scotland completely imploded, forcing her to run for her life right into Elizabeth's kingdom.
Okay, Mary's reign in Scotland. Wow, it was a total mess, just one scandal after another. First, she marries her cousin Darnley. Then he gets jealous and has her secretary brutally murdered right in front of a pregnant Mary. The next year, Darnley himself turns up dead, strangled. And just 3 months later, Mary marries the guy everyone thinks did it. The Scottish lords had had enough, forced her to give up the throne, and she fled to England hoping for help. Instead, she became Elizabeth's prisoner for the next 19 years.
You'd think being a prisoner would neutralize her, right? Nope. In a way, Mary became even more dangerous. She became a living symbol, a lightning rod for every Catholic in England who wanted Elizabeth gone.
And this threat got a major stamp of approval in 1570. The Pope himself issued what's called a papal bull. Think of it as a huge public decree you just can't ignore. It didn't just excommunicate Elizabeth, it called her the pretended Queen of England and said her subjects had no duty to obey her. This was basically a green light for rebellion.
So, imagine you're an English Catholic. The Pope just put you in a terrible spot. An impossible spot, really. You now have to choose: stay loyal to your queen and get kicked out of your church, or stay loyal to your Pope and commit treason. It was a brutal choice, and it made Mary the obvious Catholic alternative to Elizabeth.
And that impossible choice, well, it became the fuel for plot after plot, creating this tangled, dangerous web of treason aimed squarely at taking Elizabeth off the throne.
And these plots just kept coming, one after another. First the Northern Rising, then the Ridolfi plot, which planned to use Spanish soldiers. But the one that sealed the deal, the one that brought it all crashing down, was the Babington plot in 1586.
But Elizabeth had a secret weapon, or rather, a secret spy master, a guy named Sir Francis Walsingham. And this guy was the real deal. A master of espionage. He had eyes and ears everywhere, and he had managed to break into Mary's secret network. He was reading everything she wrote. In 1586, Walsingham's network hit the jackpot. They intercepted a letter to Mary from a plotter, Anthony Babington. And in it, he says he has 6 friends ready to undertake the tragical execution. A pretty chilling way to say assassinating Queen Elizabeth.
Okay, and this is the moment. This is the smoking gun. Because Walsingham didn't just get Babington's letter, he got Mary's reply. And her own words, in her own code, gave the green light. Then shall it be time to set the 6 gentlemen to work. That was it.
She had walked right into the trap. She had just signed her own death warrant.
So, with that letter in hand, the proof was undeniable. And all eyes turned to Elizabeth, who now faced the most gut-wrenching decision of her entire life.
So, they held a trial, laid out all the evidence, and, yep, Mary was found guilty of plotting the Queen's destruction. Her council, parliament, everyone was screaming for Elizabeth to sign the death warrant.
But Elizabeth, she just couldn't do it. For 4 whole months, she agonized. The very idea of executing another queen, an anointed monarch chosen by God, her own cousin, it was horrifying. It set a terrible precedent. If she could kill a queen, who's to say someone couldn't do the same to her?
But the pressure was just too much. In the end, she signed it. And on February 8, 1587, Mary, Queen of Scots, was beheaded. It looked like the feud was finally over. Elizabeth had won, right?
But this is where the story takes one last absolutely incredible, ironic twist. Fast forward to 1603, Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, dies after an incredible 44 years on the throne. But because she never married and never had kids, the powerful Tudor dynasty, it ended right there with her.
So, England needs a new ruler. And who's next in line with the strongest claim? None other than James VI of Scotland, the son of Mary, Queen of Scots, the very woman Elizabeth had executed. So yeah, Mary lost her life, but her son, her bloodline, inherited the ultimate prize.
And if you go to Westminster Abbey today, you can see their magnificent tombs. They're buried right across from each other. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In the end, after all the scheming, the betrayals and the bloodshed, who really won?